Hello, Mike.
Hello. Interestingly, the join the Hangout link on your profile doesn't get you here.
No, I tried. I had to start it again because somehow I had to move to Firefox because Google Chrome just didn't let me select my audio devices.
Oh, well, Duncan will be here shortly if he figures it out.
Yeah, there he is. So I've been re-inviting everyone. I'm not sure if you all got the invite. Hey, Duncan.
Hello, Gert. And whoever else might be there. I'm still not seeing any video.
I'm not sure that the Google plugin is working as well as it used to.
No.
Yeah, Tariq is asking. Let's see if we can invite her.
I never did get an invite, by the way.
How did you join then?
I went to your profile and clicked on Join Hangout.
I just posted an invitation to the whole Eigenharp circle I have. But now my main window is black. God.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're also, if they click on Hangouts, it says Join Now Hangout. It's there. It's in the list of Hangouts to join.
Oh, God.
Hello.
Hello.
Morning.
Found you.
Yes, but sadly I don't see any video anymore either. If this is going to continue like that, it'll be very frustrating. Each time we have a hangout now, there is a problem. Oh, there you are. I can see you, Mike, now. I don't know why this suddenly jumped into life, but...
Oh, my apologies.
That's cool. So, how have you guys been? It's been a while.
Good. Actually, I just spent a couple of hours yesterday on the Peter Gunn theme because it works on the arrangers quite nicely.
Right, because it always goes on and on and on, right?
Yeah, it goes on and on and on.
Well, it's very, very popular nowadays. There's some new song.
Success!
Hey, Duncan!
Sound and video.
So I don't know. It's strange because I re-invited Larry. He was there in my first attempt, but now he's not. He doesn't seem to be joining. So who was there in my first attempt? Larry was there and Robin. They both are online, and I re-invited them.
So is Antonio online, I see. And Joel.
Just ask them through chat.
Yeah, I actually used Workbench to go through the arranger and add accents to specific notes.
Right, yes.
I'm not sure how I did it, though, because I'm a little confused as to the rows and columns and which arranger window to do that in.
Right.
But that's just me. Anyways, it worked in the long run, perhaps by luck.
If I remember correctly, I'll have to look at it again. The arranger is set up as just a bunch of nodes that are being triggered through talkers, and you set the velocity as part of the talker definition.
That's correct, but there's arranger 1 and arranger 1 key group.
Yes.
And they both seem to have talkers in them.
Oh. Are they the same talkers?
It's not clear to me. They're numbered slightly different. The number increment in the key group seems to go up by 1, and the other one seems to go up by 10 or so.
I don't see the talker. I see an arranger key group and then an arranger 1.
Right.
Oh, well, there's an. No, so that's all I'm seeing in my workbench.
Yes, but if you look at the talkers, there's talkers in both of them.
I don't see a talker in the arranger key group. Oh, no.
Okay, maybe I'm just hallucinating.
But I did finally make the connection between the players, as in the which are the other end of the arrangers, which I hadn't. I was trying to figure out what this play arranger was and why it was only in certain rigs. So it's the rigs that have arrangers connected to them.
Yeah, it's to be able to play specific notes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. There was a chap asking on the forum recently about that kind of thing, wasn't there? How to fire a bel canto phrase to play notes, play chords.
Yes, I'm not sure how well it would play chords though, and it's kind of you have to set up all the talkers and then trigger those talkers. So it's not kind of so you have to set up all the possibilities before you can actually trigger them, which might not be what he's looking for.
Larry should be along in a moment. He and I.
Oh, there he is.
He and I just spent a couple of minutes sitting in a different hangout, wondering where you all gone to. And then I thought, maybe there's another one there, wondering where we are.
Yeah, I couldn't rejoin that first one, very strangely. Hey, Larry.
Hi, Larry. We're all here. Sitting here wondering where we got to.
It reminds me of Dungeons and Dragons. I'm searching in the halls of cyberspace to find out where the hangout went.
So what were we talking about just before we joined? I heard the word arranger. In just the other side, Larry asked me what I'd been up to. The question for Duncan, really. Was it you who'd always been wanting to find a way to use the arrangers to change the root note of a recording that's running in the background, or am I thinking of someone else?
Yeah, that was one of the things I was considering trying to do.
Because I figured out how to do it, and I've got it going in a setup here, so we can talk about that later if you're in the middle.
Cool, yeah.
Well, you can explain it. It's a cool thing to have recorded.
So it's using, I think it's version 2.0.48, but I think it'll work in most 2.0 setups. So I started off with just one key group with a little bass noise in it, and then a sequence of talkers down here on the percussion keys that I could use to set the bass note just in real time. So I'm using just the same key, and you can actually see the lights from the scaler move up the key slowly as you press these. So then I stuck the same talker phrases that change the bass note of the scaler into columns on an arranger. I managed to work out how the arranger key groups work, because course 1 is all of the control keys at the top, isn't it?
Yes.
So you have to map a key group with course 1 being this block of 10 at the top, and then courses 2, 3, 4, etc. are the rows in the arranger. So I've actually flipped the arranger 90 degrees round. I've got one that runs sideways over the keyboard. So you've got enough columns here to get 12 semitones and a 13th octave one at the bottom. So if I start this thing going, it's a bit of a weird setup because the metronome key's up here. So that's just a little recording where I've just mashed the same key over and over again. And I don't know whether that's really visible, but there you go, you can see.
Okay.
It ticks through onto the third column.
That looks cool, man. And Larry's got an iPad, I see.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah.
I ordered mine today.
Yeah, Robin, that looks really nice. It's
Yeah.
It's cool that it stays in sync like that also. Well, it's supposed to, but it's nice to see that working.
Robin, can you send me the phrase that you have on one of the percussion keys, on the talker, for changing the scaler? It was, I think the issue that I was running into was trying to figure out where you change the scale, whether it's on the scaler or on the key group.
Well, I'm changing it on the scaler, but I think...
Do you then have the override set on the scaler?
I can't remember, because I built the setup from the ground up, so I might have things connected differently to Alpha Factory 1, and I think it depends where the scaler is, whether it's upstream or downstream of the recorder, perhaps. I can't remember where around I've got it. I mean, I'll take some screenshots or something and post them up.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh, before we leave that topic, a feature request for Eigenlabs for Gert is that the bass note change seems to come right at the beginning of a bar as it's ticking along. So always the first note, if you've hit it very slightly early in your recording, it's still at the tonic note of the column one before.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be nice to have something like a millisecond or a semi-quaver subdivision type thing, an offset to say all of the events in this arranger that I've set up I want to happen slightly before they're actually marked.
Mm-hmm.
So the scale change has time to take effect.
Send those in through the bug reporter. That's the easiest thing, or an email to Eigenharp, because I will forget to enter that after the clubhouse. It's easiest to have that done through email or the bug reporter.
I suppose the other thing you could do is take the drum loop agent and pass that through a delay with no feedback or something, so there's just a small delay, so then you play your recording in time to a metronome that's actually slightly late. And that might work.
Yeah, but that offset is a good idea, I think.
Particularly for those sort of control events. Yeah.
Actually, an offset agent would be a good event, because you could use it in a lot of places.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the arranger is a bit special, though. I'm not sure that it would work in a general purpose offset agent.
Because you could write an offset
agent. Certainly not with a negative delay. The positive delay, yes, but the negative delay kind of. Once you're at the arranger.
What, you can't go forward in time?
Backwards in time. You can't, once you're there, you're kind of there, right? So.
Yeah, with the arranger you know what events are coming up in the step sequence that you've got.
Yes, so if you're inside, you could do it, but if you stick an agent in front of it, then don't see how we can offset backwards in time. Yeah, unless. Actually, I think it might be possible. I'd have to look at that. So we do have a running sequence of the beat and bar position in a song. So I guess that you could intervene with that.
But you'd still have to have something outside the arranger sort of reach inside it and get the data from what you put on the grid, which you might as well put that kind of thing inside the arranger.
Not necessarily if you munge that the time code, basically. This is based on when you press the metronome, that's the beginning of a song. And then it will start counting bars and beats. But if you start with an offset of minus 0.2, minus 0.2 or something like that, then everything will be offset just numerically.
So it's the time that you're feeding into the arranger, then slightly modified.
Yes, that might work.
Well, and it could be very useful for doing some interesting polyrhythm stuff outside of the arrangers.
True. Yes. Let's see if I can quick look at that. So what have you all been up to apart from that? Larry, when did you get your iPad?
Last Friday.
So you've been spending all weekend?
I've been doing all weekend and downloading apps and really enjoying it. It's the first time I've had a multi-touch device, and it's a very interesting way to navigate around the world and so forth. Lots to learn. I really like it. When is Stage coming out for this? Is it still coming out?
Soon.
Larry, you know that book I was writing? It's now been with Apple for 10 days. And I mean, it's just 30 pages. How hard can that be?
Oh.
The first bit of feedback I got from them was, we don't like the tables in your document, which would be fine if there were any tables in the document.
Got their wires crossed or something.
Okay.
Yeah, but then it just went into Apple hell after that. So it's coming, but I can't imagine that software would be any better, and probably would be worse.
Yeah, so we're just not risking submitting it before we're sure that the bullet points are all ticked. And it's just a small company, so we're going to have to prioritize.
I understand. It definitely looks like a good use for an iPad.
I think Robin pointed out on previous Hangouts, though, that you've always got the VNC and stage via VNC option.
Yes.
Okay.
Which has some advantages, Larry, because you can then go and adjust all of the plugin parameters and stuff as well.
Okay.
Are you familiar with VNC? You have a hunt for it on the App Store. It's something that will actually allow you to see your Mac desktop on the iPad, and you can swipe around it, move the cursor, click on things as a virtual keyboard with all the Mac modifier keys and so on.
It works okay then.
Yeah, it works great. It is sending video over your Wi-Fi network, so it has a processor demand on it. So if you're running a big Eigenharp setup with lots of synthesizers running, it might have an impact on it.
Okay.
What app are you using?
It's the VNC, the real VNC viewer application. I mean, it's one you have to pay for, and you can find it if you like, but it's just one.
The one called VNC, there is more than one, and I never bought one because I actually, frankly, can't decide which one. So.
I have almost all of them.
Okay. Which would you recommend, Kurt?
I'd go for iTeleport.
Okay.
It's been the fastest and the most reliable one to me. Also the one that respects, it allows you to switch to foreign keyboard layouts.
Okay.
I haven't seen any other one that allows you to do that, so it's probably interesting for you, Dragica.
Yeah, Swiss keyboards are funny, to say the least.
So that's the one that I've had the most success with. Hey, Joel.
Hi, Joel.
Hi, Gid. Hello, Larry. How are you doing?
Oh, great.
Okay.
Hi. Your nose doesn't look so bad.
Well, it's hidden. It's hidden beneath. There's this other app that I've been playing with. That kind of it's quite interesting, depending on what you were looking for. It combines VNC together with MIDI control surface protocol. So let's say that you've got your DAW or software mixer that you want to control over Mackie control. Then you have native support for that, for all the faders and the pan buttons and whatnot. And then they also allow you to overlay a VNC section of your screen that will be mapped to individual windows. So you can pop up a plugin and then have just that plugin in a window overlaid over that mixer. And that works quite well.
What is it called?
I think it's V Control or something like that.
And that again, does that run on the iPad, or is that to a laptop device on the same network?
That's the iPad. Mm-hmm. Yeah, V Control Pro. And I find that the way that they implemented the VNC desktop sharing is really, I don't know what they did, but it's much more responsive than any other one. If you want to start twiddling with buttons or faders or stuff like that, it kind of reacts instantly.
Maybe it's because it narrows down to one plugin window. It's a bit more of a lightweight load on the network. I don't know.
What they said is that they actually disable any kind of gestures on the screen when that is happening, so there is no latency to detect the gestures. Apparently, the iPad uses a couple of milliseconds of latency to detect whether you're using a gesture or not. So if you don't use that, you get instant response, and they say that makes a big difference. So.
It could be that a better way forward for Stage is just simply to make it Mackie or Euphonics compatible.
Yeah, problem with Mackie is that it's so limited. You really can't do anything with it.
Okay. Can you please write the name of the app in the chat window?
So the two ones that I mentioned are...
Because I have something called V-Control, but it is video and audio conferencing, which I don't think... Oh, okay, so this explains it. Without the dash, it's video conferencing software.
Yeah, and Mike pasted the link towards the actual company website.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, but we've been brainstorming, Mike, about that kind of stuff. There's something that we were talking about also at the Software Developers Conference. It would be interesting to get some kind of, to have a solution for the custom plugin GUI problem. And since we host AUs and VSTs inside Eigenharp, we actually know what they're drawing. So we can capture that and actually probably expose it over the network directly. So that's something that we've been brainstorming about. And additionally, maybe create. This is all just brainstorm land, nothing promised, right? Maybe creating a general approach for agents to provide a GUI that would be network transparent by providing some sort of canvas that they can draw in, and then that would kind of pop up in Stage and in Workbench. So, well, it's definitely something we're looking at. Yeah. And another approach is probably once we get better OSC support all around, then just use something like Lemur or something to build your own custom UIs for it. If that's your thing. Do you guys know about Lemur?
Yep.
No.
If you very expensive piece of hardware control that has been basically replaced by an app on an iPad.
Yes.
A 2-line summary.
Well, it was quite amazing. They released that device in 2004, which is like 6 years before the iPad. Multi-touch, general purpose control surface for OSC and MIDI control.
Oh.
And so they kind of went out of business due to the iPad, but then they created an app on the iPad that has the same kind of functionalities, but it is extremely capable, let's say, but also extremely complex. If you thought that Workbench was difficult, but it's amazing. You can really do. It's got kind of built-in physics engines and stuff like that, and you can kind of have a ball that you throw around, and then it will start bouncing and generate notes, and you can do really crazy stuff.
But I find things like that, the bouncing balls, or like the thing that Spectrasonics do, the orb controller, and various other things like that. They're cool to play around with for a while, but doing sort of musically coherent stuff with them is a bit difficult.
Well, some people just like creating soundscapes, or just modify noises, and I think that those kind of controls are interesting for them. It's not my kind of thing, but I can see people using that.
I like playing around with that stuff. Am I on? But what frustrates me with the ARP stuff from Omnisphere is it doesn't tell you what it's doing. So I actually, if I like something, I would like to see what it's doing and maybe incorporate that. But it doesn't tell me, and that, I think, is, for me, that's frustrating.
Can't you snapshot it and then see, keep it?
No, it doesn't show you what it's. You have this dice thingy, and then it changes parameters, but it doesn't tell you what parameters it changes.
I thought it did. Let me just quickly check. You might be wrong. Hey, Dragica, I figured out what the problem is with Omnisphere and the patch loading.
Okay.
It's not something you can't do anything about. Yay! It's basically what happens is AU and VST has a standard way of exporting their state of a current program, right? But there is no standard way of storing that on the file system.
Okay.
So getting the info is standard, but storing it is basically up to any application. You can do whatever you want. And so any application just stores it wherever it wants and encodes it however it wants it. So that's basically it. That's the reason.
No standards.
Yes. Orb. Where is the orb? Orb.
Joel still with us? I see a black square in the bottom of the list where Joel used to be.
He's turned his camera off.
Probably you can in the modifiers.
I thought I saw it. Yeah, I can see what you mean because I can't see it anymore, but I saw that before.
I think you can maybe look, if you look in the modifier list. You know, in the synth itself, there is this modifier list. You probably can look there, but it's really not easy to find, and it doesn't tell you really what it's doing. It's just doing something.
Yeah. I thought it showed it at one point. Anyway.
Yeah.
Here.
And then there were two mics.
Yes.
Oh, mate.
no.
The voting machine is in action again.
Well, I stopped getting video, and now I have no video at all, so you might get 3 mics.
Back down to one.
Gert, I was
you're
saying on G Plus yesterday that I had. I'm starting to try and build up a 2-split setup, and I'm running into a funny with the upper of the 2 splits. I don't know if you can hear this, but and if I then change the key, it's not the so the octave talker is not changing the first note in the key group.
Well, there can be two things. Either that key is not part of your key group, and it's coming from another key group.
Yeah.
That's probably the most evident one.
Let's see then. So, course 1, key 1 seems to be, and that.
Because how are you choosing the key groups?
So basically, I'm choosing them from the keyboard. So I've chosen an 8x5 block of keys, course at a time. So 8 keys, and then the double tap. Course 2, 8 keys, double tap. That sort of approach. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's what I've been doing. I don't think I've tried to hook up an octave talker to it, but.
Well, I've again just basically copied the methods that we're using in key group 1. So I've now got a second mode key second output from the main key group, sort of at the bottom. Whether that's visible, yeah, one here, and then out to which is connected out to 2 key groups, and I assume then I can then use that as the upper and lower split. And then a third output from the same key output into an octave key group, and then out to an octave talker, which I think, as far as I understand, is the right way to do things. I'm just curious as to what I've. And it's similar. I tried it yesterday, so I've basically done the same steps twice from starting from factory 1, and had essentially the same issue, that it doesn't seem to modify the first key in the key group. So, before I bothered putting the octave key group in and the talkers in, I would still have an odd interval on between the first 2 keys, and then everything else through the key group would work fine.
Actually, the only reason I can think of is that you're missing out some keys in your key group.
Key group.
If you go back to choose mode for course 1, do they all show up green, or is there one missing at the top that's red?
So if we go back to choose mode for course 1, choose using keyboard. Yeah, they all show green. That's probably not visible at all.
Actually are, but
yeah, you take my word for it. They're all lit up. From here to here is all lit up green.
That's really strange.
Because I've got a keyboard split here. Let's put an octave talker on that, and I'll see what happens.
The other thing I was a little
so
surprised by.
do you already have 2 key groups connected to that output, or just one for the moment?
Yes. Yeah, 2. The second key group is...
And the second key group, can you check if you don't have that key in there?
I haven't actually defined the second key group yet. Is that likely to be? At least I don't think so.
If you created the second, then there's no reason why it wouldn't happen for the other keys.
Is there not some kind of default where it just takes the first available, or?
Yes. If the key group has no mapping, it kind of uses all the upstream keys, and it doesn't do any mapping.
Well, bear with me then, and talk amongst yourselves while I define the second key group and see whether that changes anything.
Well, if you just choose a calls for the second key group and you select one key, and then that's it. Now maybe there's a bug in the latest version of Eigenharp when you define it, because with existing setups that I had, because I've got a split setup here in my custom, and I'm switching between the octaves. So.
Yeah, no, that seems not to have had any effect. I'll try re-choosing then.
And what are you outputting sound to?
So I have a mode key, and I've just defined the 4 sampler outputs. So created 4 outputs, renamed as sampler 1 output through to sampler 4 output, and then connected those out through to the rig input, just using the top level connection.
And where are you switching the octaves on? What are the talker phrases?
The talker phrases are, the key groups are key group 11 and key group 12, and the talker phrases are key group 11, hey, octave down and octave up. And I mean, as you can...
It's really strange indeed.
So it seems to be working just fine, apart from this first key.
I can quickly try to redefine something here, see what happens, but...
Yeah, there you go. That's the Omnisphere orb application.
Yeah.
Have you set up any course offsets, Duncan?
Yeah, I've set an offset 0444.
Okay.
I mean, rather than take up time in the Hangout, we can take this offline if that's easier.
Yeah, probably easiest you send me that setup and see what's going on.
Yep.
I just redefined that one and it works. I think you probably have a dangling connection from somewhere that bleeds through.
I'll take another look then.
No, my whole thing is wrecked. Undo.
Well, the nice thing with the latest release is you can undo. You can. It seems a little bit more stable switching between setups.
Well, it should be. You spent so much time on it.
There's another question for Gert, perhaps. I don't know, to interrupt him while he's choosing key groups, because I know it's delicate. But I was having a go at taking that Lightshow OSC HTTP Python script that I'd written and try and actually put that inside a copy of the Illuminator agent. You said that I found the Illuminator agent is pure Python.
Yes.
But I'm having a few troubles getting the tools set up from the developer conference to work with something that doesn't have a native C++ component. It's looking for one that it can't find. Are they...
maybe something we didn't export?
For something that doesn't have a C++ component.
Just tell me which API that is, and I'll put it in the exports.
Sorry?
There's probably a header file that's not included in the exported stuff.
I'll have another look at it later and email you what's going on.
Yeah, that's probably it. I know I had to export a few new ones for that. Maybe I forgot some of those.
Okay. Another very quick question. I don't want to derail this onto software development again, but which is, if I wanted to have something, the light show I had in my video was more purely reactive to the pressure signal and the pitch bend signal. So when there's new data coming in, it updates the light display. But if you wanted something that, say, you're able to press a key and then have something drain away from your fingers, going like a piano roll type thing that you're painting notes onto, if you need some kind of clock or something to keep that going to continue updating the light pattern after you've pressed something.
You'll probably have to write that in C then, and using a C filter.
Okay. But would you have to wire in something like the metronome as an input to keep it ticking along, or would the C++ backend be sufficient to put it on the clock tree?
Yeah, if you just you use a C filter, then you will get clock ticks. Then you can just keep your internal state.
It's okay for C filter, isn't it? Because it's just things like pressure and breath signals coming in,
yes,
and then light going out. There's no sort of multiple, You can have several events coming in, can't you?
Yeah, you can basically have your event linger on then, and so you probably create a light event, and then you linger that on until it's finished.
Okay.
There's this flag where if you return true or false at the end of an event, to let it linger or not. I can't reload my setup because then my whole mixer configuration will be racked in the metric halo. Yeah, I think I'm fine again. Yeah. So Joel, how has it been for you in the first couple of weeks?
Not bad at all. Been a bit busy actually, so I haven't had as much time this week to play with it as I could, but no, I'm enjoying it. I'm trying to mess around with setups now because I'm finding the octave a bit limiting, so I can't play some of what I want to do. So I'm trying to get all percussion keys in, and I'm trying to move to a fully chromatic setup, so I just can sort of mess around a bit more, and I don't know, I'll see how it goes, but I just need a bit of help with Workbench really, because I'm really confused.
I was thinking actually that in my explorations with Workbench, usually I've been sitting there thinking, right, I want to do X, Y, Z, and I know it works like this in the factory setup, so I then load the factory setup, work my way through it, pick things out of it, and then go and do the same thing in my setup. I was thinking that I'd be perfectly prepared to actually sit down and take some screenshots of that, make a few more Workbench tutorials. I don't know which ones Alistair or anyone at Eigenlabs is working on at the moment. I don't. Thumbs up there.
At the moment, we're not working on anyone in particular. You've got one planned, but more about key group splits and stuff like that. Okay. But I think what you just said would actually be extremely useful. Is like very specific topics, saying I want to connect a scalar to something, and how do you do that? And how do you create an octave key and stuff like that? I suppose that's what you were talking about.
Yeah.
And having a collection of very task-driven snippets like that would be extremely useful for everyone, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Then I'll
writing up that crosswise key base note changing arranger would be an interesting.
Yeah. Well, it's got lots of moving parts now.
He said with a degree of self-interest.
Yes.
I was going to write up the two key group split if I can once I get it working. It doesn't seem too bad so far.
Yeah, please do.
Discovered a few bits and pieces along the way.
Also, the stability of Workbench, is it improved slightly? Because one thing I found was when trying to remove stuff, it ended up being quite slow, and it's quite frustrating to work with it when it's sort of loading up again and it's sort of not deleting and freezing up. Is it just me, or do I need to sort my computer out a bit?
Version 4.8 is a lot better. I think back in 044 or something, I think I had was in the same circumstances as you. I was trying to load up something like Alpha 1 and then delete half of it so that it was a bit more lightweight on load. And after you deleted about 5 or 6 things, it would just grind to a halt.
Right.
So
I'm using 4.6 at the moment, actually.
Yeah, 4.6, just go to 4.8.
4.8.
4.8.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 4.6 had a memory allocation bug that, on certain processors really did a bad job.
I think 4.6.
Yeah, I saw you messing around in GitHub. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Robin, if you can do that, very much appreciated.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not doing enough in Workbench right now because I'm having other stuff. I'm doing other stuff, but would be really nice.
So I've been spending time trying. So I was thinking about, again, the same discussion that we've had for so many times, real synths and virtual synths. And what I like the most about my real synth is the tactile control, the fact that I don't have to reach for a mouse if I want to play around with it. So I've been spending some time trying to find some good solutions for that with software synthesizers. But there are not many out there, which is a shame.
Like MIDI control surfaces with lots of opto encoders and things like that, or?
Yeah, there's two basic approaches. Either you get some kind of generic one, either on the iPad or on a real hardware one, and then you have to mentally map that generic layout to what the plugin does. And I'm actually convinced that is not what I want, because it's again not as intuitive. I want this layout that is proper for that particular synthesizer, and I want to reach for it. So having something laid out, let's say a huge block of 25 encoders, and then I have to know that the first 10 are that, and the second, the next are this, and it's not as intuitive. So then,
Kurt, that's why I like my Euphonics, or I guess it's an Avid Surface, because the screen lets you name things.
Yes.
And there aren't that many controls. There's 8 of them. They're encoders and push buttons, but they're fairly easy to customize.
Mm-hmm. That's another thing that I personally want to avoid, is to have to go through too many screens. Just as if you have a real synth, you basically have almost everything in front of you, and if it's intuitive to get at. Instead of, okay, I have to switch to that screen first, and then I know that if I go a bit further down, I can find that particular parameter.
Well, except you can switch the screen using the encoders. So you can have a screen dedicated to each encoder.
Mm-hmm.
So you go directly there.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, it comes pre-built with environments for, say, Logic. If you push an encoder for a plugin, like one of their effect plugins, it brings up all the effect plugin details on the touch screen.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but they're laid out in a generic fashion, right?
But they're labeled.
Yes, but if you have something, let's say, like if you open up, for example, Uhe's Diva plugin in there, you have about 250 parameters in there, and they're all just alphabetically ordered, or not even, just a series of parameters. extremely tedious to go through that if you want to find the one that you want, because they are not logically laid out as they would be physically on a synthesizer, right? You see what I mean?
Yeah. For that I use Live.
Sorry?
I use Live for finding the parameters. Because in Live you can put it in, then you go in this control thingy, and then you twiddle the knob you want to twiddle, and it tells you what parameter it is.
Mm-hmm.
Which is easier to find than the list.
Yes, yes.
So I know how it's called, and then it's easier to find. That's
right.
Very practical.
But then if you've got this generic surface where you get access to everything, because I have that on my MC Mix also, Mike. It lays out the parameters, but there are not that many screens. But I have like eight LED screens at the top where it says the parameters of the particular plugins, and I can page through them, right? So if I touch a control of a particular plugin, it activates that plugin on my MC Mix, and I see the names of the parameters on top, and I can see the values, and then I can page through them. To me, I think on your MC control, it's probably the same problem, except that you've got more screens, but still, if you've got like 300 plugin parameters, it's the same problem.
No, you can set any touch area or the physical buttons under it to any particular thing you wish. So you basically either inherit a setup that they built for you, like Logic,
mm-hmm.
Or you can set any button or any touchscreen area to be any one thing that you want.
And what can you control with that, Mike?
Really anything. You can even, like you can output a numeric value with the encoders.
Yes, but it's MIDI, right? It's MIDI CC. If you do that.
If you do that, or it's a keyboard entry.
You mean note on, note off?
No. I mean a textual entry.
Oh, textual entry. Okay. Yeah.
I can't remember right off the top of my head. You basically have a thing to define the screens,
mm-hmm.
and you can define them as keyboard entries. You can define them as MIDI events. You can define them as Mackie control events. And one other thing, but I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, so that gets me to what Dragica just pasted, is that you can... I still don't feel comfortable with the generic layout. Even if you can change what it does, a generic grid is not... It doesn't feel as intuitive to me.
So what do you think the alternative is?
I think that, what I've been looking at is...
Or where you can actually move the controls around. You have a limited set of them, like faders or dials or something, but you can position them as you want to in something.
But what I was looking at is building your own custom controller, and Livid allows you to do that.
Yeah.
But then again, it's a hardware thing, and what do you do if you work with 10 different plugins?
I mean, what you really want is, and what probably would be possible, but probably would be really expensive, is to have faders in little cubes like this, which you can plug together. Like, there is something called Little Bits, which does this with electronic components.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually what you want. They have magnets. They have little electronic components. They have magnets, and you can put them together in magnets and do whatever you like for electronics. And you want something like this, probably with knobs and faders. You can just plug together, and then you have your new surface. So you can have your surface from Diva, for instance, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it should be probably possible to do something like that if somebody...
So I was thinking of going that route, but I think it's going to be very expensive.
I mean,
so I'm as a first step, you never know if it's sufficient. I'm not trying to build some totally custom interfaces on the iPad or using OSC to actually control plugin parameters.
So is that with your own bits of software, or
no? I tried several things, and I'm now kind of digging into Lemur. That's why I mentioned it earlier. I'm not sure if it's going to work out, but it seems to be quite promising.
You see, what the real answer is that you guys need to finish Stage for iOS and make it do all the things that you want.
I was going there too.
There are some particular things, really important things missing there. Stage is really limited to a certain set of controls. But one thing that I found now in Lemur, for example, made me a little think differently about Stage also, is I really had to resort to writing little snippets of code to make the interface bit intelligent, based, behave correctly based on what the interface of the software synth does, and not just tie a knob to a parameter. That works for 80% of the things, but the other 20% of the things doesn't work. Typically, for example, I don't know if you guys have tried Diva, which is what I'm looking at now. Just open it up for those who haven't seen it.
You should really look at the little bit stuff. I mean, just as maybe an inspiration, what could be done with really sticking stuff together with magnets.
Let me just show that. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what typically? So let's say that I built this, the oscillator here in the left, right, which is just 10 knobs that you can twiddle around. That's fine, right? But if you're kind of experimenting with a synth, what you want to do is, like here, I'm going to select another oscillator, and then my interface changes, right? I want this. I want this to be as intuitive, because I'm working with sound, and I just want to continue fiddling. I don't want to have something generic, like a list of 20 controls that then would kind of change their behavior. I want this visually to be different. Right? So that's a challenge, right? Be able to touch that. So that's what I'm trying to build now with Lemur.
But I mean, you'd almost want something that changes as you change what you want to activate.
Yes.
Like you just did there. So you'll be doing what you're doing on the screen, but the hardware is going to be changing.
Yes.
So knobs will appear and disappear. I like it. I don't know how to do it, but I like it.
Research topics into things like haptic feedback and smartphones and iPad screens, where you use like static electricity or something like that, where when you put your finger on the screen, there's a mechanism by which it can sort of tap your finger. Usually it's for sort of little tick marks on a slider control, so you can feel where you are on it, or something like that. So maybe that's your answer. Maybe it can somehow communicate to your fingertip with a bit of static electricity that there is a dial here that you're changing. Either that, or you have to make a very fast 3D printer that will make your control panel for you.
So that's one of the reasons why I'm trying Lemur, to have a software interface solution to this. I can show you where I got. Just connected the iPad. So this is one oscillator, and if I press on this, then I get a second oscillator. So I already have the interface changing, and this controls the plugin over OSC. So I'm going to try to build it out and see how intuitive it is to use. Because having the different layouts, I find that it makes my brain instantly think in the right way, because the things are laid out specifically for that function. Like here, the oscillators are all on. All the controls are on the same row, so I know that row is for one oscillator and the next row is for another oscillator.
So how do you square that with the fact that the Eigenharp, all the keys are essentially a generic grid of keys that your UI elements on, red, orange, green lights? Is it Eigenlab's going to release a new Eigenharp that has a giant multi-touch service down the front?
Well, this is a giant touch surface that you can stick on it if you want to.
Yeah, so just make a very high aspect ratio iPad and weld it to the front of the iPad.
No, I'm just going to attach it to a microphone stand or something like that, I suppose.
I bought a microphone clip stand for the iPad. It's very, very useful. So I was at a gig the other day just with the Irish tin whistles, and so you have your microphone to play into, and then attached to the same stand you have your music that you page through. You don't need a music stand anymore.
Yes. So, well, that's what I'm experimenting with at the moment. Seeing if it goes well, and seeing if it is intuitive to use.
Mm-hmm.
And then if that works, I'm kind of thinking of building, myself a software product that might work even outside, Eigen land. Just a plugin wrapper that allows you to expose all plugin parameters as OSC back and forth. So what I'm doing now, I'm hosting that in Baidu. And Baidu has this thing where you can. Let's see if I can show that. Good morning.
Hello.
Hey, Randy. So, I don't know if you guys have ever experimented with Baidu, but Baidu has something that is called Send to OSC service, and basically any plugin you put in there, you can send it to a particular OSC server, and then all the plugin parameters will be automatically, when there are changes, automatically be sent to it, and anything it receives, it will change it in the plugin, which is like 99% there, to be able to hook it up to a generic service. See how it goes. That's what I'm busy with at the moment.
Yeah, Kurt, do a search on haptic surfaces.
Yeah.
Because that's really what you're after.
I remember seeing a demo video ages ago for something called the Tactopad. I don't know if anyone remembers that. It was in the pre-iPad days where this whole multi-touch thing was new, and their demo videos were spectacular. They had a little paint package, where they could draw rectangles with both corners moving at once, and you could zoom and rotate the canvas. And I'd never seen that kind of thing before, because iOS devices, the sophistication we have nowadays, didn't exist at all. I don't think they ever really brought it to market. But, that thing had, instead of being a flat glass surface you were scraping your finger over, it was a sort of squishy type surface that could actually communicate back by changing its consistency. Little tick marks on the sliders so that you could tell whereabouts you were.
Yeah, there's a great researcher at U of T, I think his name's Ted Sargent, who invented that goo, and it had two other features. One was you could pass a current through it and it would emit different colors of light, and it would also work as a camera. So you could actually build little models of cars that were fully colored out of goo.
Oh.
Yeah, I've seen a demo of something like this, a magnetic surface, which actually does do buttons wherever you want them to be. Really pressable buttons. With some kind of magnetic fluid, they put current through it, and then you have little bumps, and you can press them, and you have real buttons, feelable buttons, but it's very experimental.
We just need to figure out how to do rotary dials and faders, and then Gert will be happy.
Yeah. So wait another
10 years. 10 years, there will be something that everyone will have, right?
That's right.
Just like multi-touch.
Yeah. Yeah, bring it on.
But in the meantime, it's trying to make the best out of what's there.
In the meantime, maybe you should buy an old lemur, a real one. You have one, don't you?
No, I don't.
Because these are really pressure sensitive, which is the difference between the iPad and the lemurs. I mean, it was really expensive, and when I wanted to buy one, there was none I could buy. It was before I knew about the Eigenharp. But the thing about the real lemur is it was pressure sensitive, which is a difference. And it was, you had slightly the feeling of pressing something, not like with the iPad, where you can press whatever you like. It's not going to make a difference.
Can you get some kind of simulation of pressure sensitivity on the iPad? Because is it sensitive to the actual contact area between your fingertip and the screen?
Yeah, some people do that. Yeah,
involved in that. Certainly the touch surface on the MacBook Pro and the Magic Trackpad and so on, I think track the contact area. So I've got a couple of things that put in extra gestures into macOS, and one of the things it does is a test mode where it actually draws little ellipses around where the contact points are. So it can tell whether you've put your whole finger on it as well, because it's a fat ellipsoid and what angle it's pointing at.
Yes, and there are people using that even for controllers. I think TouchOS allows you to use that. Some people also use the accelerometer for that. If you hit it hard, then they pick up the vibration and kind of use that as velocity.
There's other people who use that to log your keystrokes as well.
Yeah, but it still isn't a button.
Yes.
You can feel.
No.
You have to look at it.
Yes.
I mean, you can have it give you sound clues, so it can talk to you. But this isn't the one.
It's not the same.
Either.
No. Anyway,
the ultimate solution would be the Matrix solution, where there are no buttons and there is no Eigenharp. We just plug it into the back of your head, and you think you're turning this dial. You go to page 2, and all these other dials appear in front of you, and you tweak those. And
that's probably the easiest solution. Just got to write it, and just got to create it.
Then your virtual
code,
synth is exactly like your
code.
normal synth.
So Gert, I just basically redid the steps from again a clean install, and this is what I had last night. So everything works fine other than that first one.
weird.
That's really strange. I've never had that.
Yeah, really, I can't figure it out. As far as I can tell, I'm doing everything.
Well, send me your setup and I'll have a look
I'll send
at
the setup on. What's the best way to do that? Just by email?
Yeah.
Versus?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do that later.
Just write down the set of stages you're going through.
I will do, yeah.
Appreciating detail and stuff them on the forum, and we can step through them and see whether we get the same effect.
It could very well be there is some kind of bug here that you're triggering, which would be good to know of. But I think that Uhe was building, wasn't he building a controller for Diva? A hardware one?
Yeah, I think originally there was something like this posted. You do like the Diva? Still like it?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I like it a lot.
There we go. There's something on Synthtopia on the 24th of March about a Skunkworks prototype piece of hardware.
Sounds of typing from...
Yeah, I'm trying to see a picture of it. There's only videos.
Yeah.
I know that they were setting it up at Music Messe, but they never got it working. Anyway, I wanted to look at how they abstracted, how they did the different oscillator things. That's a video. Yeah. So, it seems it's about time to sign off. If anyone has something else to discuss, we can quickly do it, or call it a day.
It's good to see everybody.
Yes. It's good to see Randy for the first time.
Yeah, I normally work during this time.
Yeah, that goes for a number of us.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can see the thing there. Yeah, it's kind of just a series of buttons.
What's the problem is that if we put the Monday Hangout, say, even just a couple of hours later, then it begins to eat into other folks' working day from the other end, does it, in the States?
Right.
Well, is there anyone in the States that couldn't go later? I mean, I can go later.
I'm totally fine, except on Monday. I can't do it later on Monday. It's kind of the only day that's not possible. Apart from that, any other day I can do it later. I don't mind.
Because the Wednesday one works out at the moment when we seem to be having it. That's about 8 p.m. my time. But something like 6 p.m. my time, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, whenever, would be better for me. And I don't know what time that works out for everyone else. Whether the earlier start means it fits in the morning before someone's day at work. But
any earlier than 7, and I won't make it. I don't generally get home until about 7ish.
Well, I'm going to set up a doodle for this. See if we can find a better time.
No, because it's nice when a whole load of us get together rather than sort of 2 or 3 here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll do that next.
Sounds good.
Nice seeing you all again.
Yeah, thanks for your time.
I did get your setup working, Robin. Remember, I got that working.
So with the scalers hooked up, did you get some help from Gert or John?
No, I finally just plugged in a scaler in there, and things started working. The sound, everything was working, other than I wasn't getting any sound. And as soon as I plugged the scaler in, I got sound.
Because I think the key groups, and correct me if I'm wrong, they send key information, so a stream of events with key numbers on them. And the audio unit plugins, they have a frequency input, don't they? So the pitch bend is almost done outside the audio unit. And then somewhere inside the audio unit host, it takes the frequency information, turns that presumably back into MIDI key numbers. But in order to go from key to frequency into the audio unit rigs, then you need a scaler in there.
You need to pass it a frequency that it has to play, which is what the scaler does. It converts any kind of information, key information or something else, into frequency. You could have something else generating frequencies and passing that into the audio unit. If someone would write a sequencer or something like that, it's much better to be able to work with frequencies than to have to work with MIDI notes.
Is that something to do with the audio unit standard then? Is that the way they work?
No, it's because we think it's more logical to think in terms of frequencies and streams of data instead of MIDI note numbers and on and off.
Then you have the problem also that sometimes people want 60.321 MIDI frequency. It's easier.
Yes.
If you don't want the MIDI notes to have the...
Yes, and so we kind of convert it back. We know what each MIDI note's frequency is, and then snap it to the MIDI note, and what's above or below becomes pitch bend. And,
so what was the keyboard layout you were going for? Was it a full chromatic with no duplications, or?
No, this was the setup for, what was it? You wrote a number of steps on the forum.
Oh, was this to get a 2-keyboard split thing?
Exactly, right. Right.
Have you tried hooking up any octave talkers to it yet? Because Duncan thinks he's found a bug with that. But
no, Robin, I've reproduced that now from a clean setup before I add the octave talker in. So, as I say, I'll write out the steps that I've done, and maybe somebody can see if they can reproduce, and I'll send the setup on to Kurt.
yes, I'd like to take a look at that because it's not normal. It's very strange.
Yeah, you would have thought you'd have to go through a number of very strange steps to actually make it do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which Duncan is maybe doing, is just maybe not realizing it.
Maybe.
Maybe you're like
Could be
doing like this when you're selecting keys. I gotta go because the kids are home.
My former experience as a software tester, I had to break things.